Hello and welcome back to Landlord Coffee Talk, proudly presented by the Southern California Apartment Group, Sean Charbetjan's office, your trusted expert in multi-unit properties. Join us for our informative 20-minute Q&A fire rounds where we aim to provide answers to those common questions that have been on your mind. This is a two-part episode. The first part is our Q&A fire round here in the studio. Then we will be heading to an apartment complex where we will follow Dima as he gives us a quick rundown on how the electrical system of an apartment building works. I am so excited about our guest today, welcoming Dima from AA Electric. Welcome, Dima.
Thank you so much.
How are you?
Excited to be here.
I am excited to be here. I am excited to be here with you as well. So, Dima, tell me a little bit about yourself and your company.
So we're a small business. I pretty much do everything from A to Z. I meet with customers, buy supplies, make sure that everything is running smoothly. And of course, I have my team as well, who helps me out greatly. Yeah.
I love it. Now, you are based out of Los Angeles, and you pretty much service
Los Angeles area, from the west side to even St. Gabriel down to Orange County.
Fantastic. And you've been in the business for how long?
My family has been in the business since the early 90s.
Fantastic. And you're all things apartment complex electrical.
Correct.
That is your specialty.
That's what we do.
I love it. Well, I have been having Dima on speed dial within the last 6 months, really. Okay. I've been calling you nonstop. There have been tremendous amount of landlord inquiries within our office asking for an electrician that can help with updating their electrical panels as they have just received a letter from the insurance company. We're going to start with our client, Linda. So Linda just received a non-renewal from her insurance company stating that her electrical panels need to be updated. The letter specifically stated the following panels are non-compliant, and one of these panels was hers. So this list is Zinsco, Sylvania, Federal Pacific, and Stab Lock panels are considered non-favorable. So Linda says she's never had an issue with these panels. Right. They're always been in working condition. The tenants never complain. All of a sudden she gets this letter. Why are they considered non-compliant, and what's so bad about them?
So I think Sylvania was recently added to this list. It's always been Zinsco and Federal Pacific, Stablock, Federal Pacific. Some of these brands just don't function as they should. Okay. So it could be that they're working, you think they're working, yet they're not protecting you. So if there's a overcurrent, it's not going to trip the breaker. And potentially, obviously, that could lead to a bad situation.
Got it. So overcurrent meaning too much activity within the electrical panel, and typically it should shut off on itself, which that's what
shut off the breaker.
Should trip the breaker.
So too much activity on a specific circuit, especially in older buildings where rewire hasn't happened yet. And the breakers doesn't trip.
It doesn't trip, shut off, let's say, and then trip or shut off, and then it'll continue to
supply. It'll continue to overheat. It'll continue to heat up the wire, to heat up the breaker. And the potential fire could occur either at the panel or maybe at the outlet, especially if the outlet is behind the couch. And then I've seen it time and time.
You've seen it time and time. Okay, so the right thing to do is to really just update this to where you are compliant with these panels. Now, Linda's insurance company is asking her to update them. So does this mean that she has to change her entire panel, or is there a cost-effective way to change the wiring system to where you can add that trip into that to where it can, shut off on its own, creating the mechanism, making it compliant? Will a partial update satisfy building and safety requirements and the insurance requirements?
And it's a complicated question. It needs to be looked at case-by-case basis. I recommend reading that letter carefully.
Okay.
A lot of the times, it'll be specific what they want you to do.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll tell you just the sub panel. Sometimes they'll tell you the main panel. Unless you have Elon Musk money and you want to take care of everything at once, which most people don't, take care of what this letter states.
Okay.
And obviously pull the permits, do it the right way. My recommendation is pull the permits for sure.
Okay, so we're going to get into that in a little bit, but So you've had landlords present you with insurance letters, insurance
Correct.
requirements,
Yes.
and you're able to take that and really read through it and say, okay, well, they're not really asking for much. Instead, they're asking for, let's say, the sub panel to be changed.
The sub panels are cheaper than the main panels.
Got
typically.
it. Okay.
It's more manageable, easier to change out, less interruption to the tenant. I mean, there's a tenant living, so you want to be respectful for their time, and obviously a sub panel would be simpler to do.
Okay, interesting. So, quick question: and this is me asking, is the sub panel completely different from the main panel? Meaning, can you switch only out the sub panel, or do you have to switch out the whole mechanism?
Again, every building is different.
Got it.
Most of the time, the sub panels would be located on the inside of the property.
Okay.
Most of the time. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes they're located on the outside. Sometimes the sub panel is located in a place where you can't change it out at the same location because it might be in a closet, or it might be in a space too close to the
Right.
gas heater, whatever it is. It needs to be looked at case by case basis. But most of the time, 90% of the time, from what I've seen, it's the existing panel is in a decent location, and you swap it out at that location.
Got it.
Most of the time, it's inside.
Okay, and you don't have to do both of them at the same time,
No.
sub or main.
You can do
separate.
Yes.
You can update just the sub panel and leave the main panel alone
Yes.
if that's not an issue
Or
with the insurance
vice versa.
company, or vice versa.
Correct.
Okay, fantastic. So Dima, interesting you brought up permits earlier. I didn't realize, or a lot of electricians don't realize or don't want to.
Don't want to.
Okay. You have to pull permits for everything. And so even just updating a simple thing, would a permit be required?
Permit is always required in LA and LA County, especially for sub panels, especially for
Right.
panels. As a landlord, I think it's a bad idea not to pull a permit.
Okay.
It gives a landlord confidence that somebody checked your work, building and safety approved it, and honestly, even if you go against the system and you change it out and don't pull a permit,
Right.
later on, chances are you're going to get caught by the housing department anyways.
I
And then it will be more difficult, and it'll be, so just do it the right way at the beginning. Permits are cheap.
Permits are cheap. How difficult is it to get one?
It's not difficult.
Okay.
A lot of them could be obtained at a snap of a finger online.
Online, okay.
Yes, if you have an account with LADBS. If you can't do it online for whatever reason, maybe there's a housing that put some kind of stoppage on this unit or apartment building, you can always submit. You can always make yourself a virtual appointment.
Right.
Just show up at that virtual appointment, pre-fill necessary applications prior, and you'll get it right there and then. Just go online, then pay for it.
Okay.
And done.
Is this something that the landlord has to do, or is this something your company takes care of?
I take care of it.
You take care of it.
I take care of
Okay, fantastic. Going back to the 8-unit building we were talking about, now you've pulled the permits, you're ready to update the electrical panels, and this is one of our clients who's going through this right now. His name is Gatto. He's getting ready to update his electrical panel per the guidelines that their insurance company required. How long will it take for him or the electrician to update this from start to finish? And we're talking about, and I realize there's two different mechanisms. There's a sub panel, there's a main panel. He's doing the main panel.
The main panel. The main panel is a process. That process starts with Department of Water and Power getting involved, or Edison getting involved,
Okay.
depending where your jurisdiction is, who's your provider, utility provider. You submit an application to either of the two places. A meter spotter typically comes out within relatively short time, 2-3 weeks, hopefully. 2-3 weeks.
Relatively short, okay,
Well,
yeah, 2
relatively
to 3 short, yeah.
2 to 3 is still
Yeah.
short. It's still doable. If
I
you-
know, I bet. I mean, I can imagine things take so long right now, but it is a short amount of time. You're right.
So they come out, they'll give you a meter spot.
Okay.
They'll spot on the wall where they want this meter to be.
Yep.
New panel, new metered panel to be. Typically, the way we do it is we try to put it as close to the existing location as possible. And the reason for that is because if I come in day one, take off the old panel,
Okay.
and as soon as I took the panel, that's it, no power. Now, if it takes me 3, 4, 5, 6 days to put everything together, finish up the work, meaning for that period of time, there's no power.
There's no
So you don't want to do that. You always want to put it next to it as close as possible, because obviously materials and labor that's going to be involved to reconnect it. And then you just do a reconnection or split up the reconnection, or do reconnection in one day, so tenants are without power for a minimal
downtime.
Minimum downtime.
Interesting. So the new panel, or the updated panel, is going to be in an entirely new spot than the old one, or close to it.
Close to it. There's also rules and regulations where it can be, where it cannot be, and
the downtime you're saying would be one day the tenants would be without
the
power.
downtime per unit would be at. Hopefully, you reconnect the unit within a few hours.
Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. And that was my next question. That got ahead is, how long will my tenants be without power? And you're saying just minimal.
Just minimal.
Okay, fantastic. Wow. So, gosh, there's been a huge demand lately. Like I said, you've been on speed dial for the past 6 months, and with these electrical panels, demand wanting to be replaced. We had one client face with a shortage. She called me the other day and she said, my electrician cannot get a certain part. It's on back order. So being that there's so many requests for updating these electrical panels, and who knew Federal Pacific was dominating, years ago when these buildings were in the Los Angeles, when these buildings were being built. Can a landlord be faced with a shortage of parts?
The answer is yes, unfortunately. It's much better today than it used to be. It's much better today than it used to be in COVID.
Right.
There's also, in 2023, new code went into effect. There were major code upgrades, and panels that were totally fine to put in 2022 and before, they're not good today. So the manufacturers are still catching up. It's getting better. But it's not 100% bulletproof.
Okay. And how important it is for an electrician to have a relationship with this manufacturer in getting these parts on the drop of the dime?
It's not even the manufacturer. The manufacturer, it's the suppliers who distribute these.
Got it.
So you want to have a great relationship, because the supply is limited.
Okay.
And if you don't have a good relationship, if you don't buy enough, the preferential treatment will always go to the guy who buys a lot and can do a good turnaround.
There's top client, of course. Fantastic. Wow, we talked a lot about electrical panels. We talked about main panels, sub panels, meters, meter spotters from Edison, from LADWP. There's a lot going on with all of this. And I ever wonder what is going on with these panels and what is behind or on the side of your building? How does it all work? Well, we'll be visiting our client's 8-unit property right after this, and Dima will be giving our viewers a rundown on how an apartment complex's electrical system works. You ready?
Of course.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Welcome to our second part of this interview. We're here with Dima. Here is our 8-unit property local here to Los Angeles. This property has received an insurance letter in regards to like a lot of properties today, in regards to its Zinsco panel. So I figured what better way to do this is to get our electrician out here and really talk to me about what are the ins and outs of this electrical system in this building.
Sure.
All right, so follow me. Let's go.
Let's go.
So Dima, are most electrical systems or these panels on the sides of the buildings?
Most of them are going to be on the sides of the building, that's correct.
Okay. And in this particular in this particular case, this 8-unit property, the panels are on the side of the building. And this is all like launching a ship over here with all kinds of mechanisms. Sure. So we're going to kind of go through what each thing does. And here we are with 8 units, but I see 9 meters. I mean, these are meters. Okay, so talk to me about these meters. Do these belong to the property itself?
Correct. So each meter controls or reads electricity use for a particular unit. The reason why you have an 8-unit building,
Right.
and you have 9 meters, and the reason is for the 9th one, it's the common meter. It's for the common area.
Oh, for the common areas.
For the laundry, for the lights, and etc.
Got it.
But each one of these is common. Now, in this particular, again, every building is different.
Right.
Just like all humans, for the most part, different.
Yeah.
This particular building, you're kind of lucky, but you have two separate meter banks. I think the reason why it was put in like this back in the 70s when this building was put together is because in your case, not a lot of buildings are like this, but in your case, these are fairly large amperage breakers going into the unit. So you're kind of that's a good thing. That's a really good thing because it's going to save you money when you do this panel upgrade actually.
Okay.
So you have 70 amps. I see a 100 amp breaker going to some unit, which is great.
So backing up to what a meter bank is. So each square is considered a meter bank.
Yes.
Got it. And
so this meter bank is loaded. We don't see it right now, but this most likely it's loaded with 400 amps.
Okay.
And this meter bank is also loaded with 400 amps.
Got it.
And the contractor who was doing it initially, he knew that his distribution was 70. So he needed to give this building enough juice to be able to support these breakers.
And the juice is coming from where?
From the pole, which is you can't see it, but there's a pole right there, and I already looked. It's coming on the rooftop. So there's a riser on the top of the roof, and that's where electricity is coming from.
Which then feeds into this.
Which feeds into here and feeds into there.
Okay,
and
so
you
two
can
separate
sort of
meter banks.
see if you can sort of see a little hump here. That's where it comes in. There's
see.
a connector right there.
Fantastic. And again, these meters are read by, in this case, DWP. And I noticed that it's not Zinsco, it's Duncan, and Duncan belongs to DWP?
The meters have nothing to do with us. The meters belong to DWP. This is an entity property of DWP.
Okay.
And you don't care about that.
We don't care.
What you
That just
care
reads
about
the electricity.
is the actual panel, and what
Okay.
you care about is these breakers. So for instance, we can take off, excuse me, we can try to take off this cover off. So
Alright.
this one's it's a little dirty, but
Now, how does the insurance company know it's Zinsco? There's no lettering or stickers or anything?
Because a professional who does this on daily basis
Say
or whatever.
they take pictures and they send it to their
this
professionals
is
in-house and they're able to know?
If you breathe here, it'll probably say somewhere here Zinsco.
I see.
But these are Zinsco breakers. This
Now,
is what it is.
what's so bad about this breaker here? And what is this mechanism that's not a good mechanism? What happens
So the
here?
Zinsco breakers are fire prone. They overheat and they don't trip when they overheat.
Okay.
And that's why the insurance companies are going after these buildings to replace these breakers.
Now, in the studio, we talked about that there was an option on a case-by-case basis where you can add that little trip or that mechanism to have it shut off, even if it's Zinsco or Federal Pacific. But in this case,
you cannot, unfortunately.
you cannot. Is it because the way it's set up and it's
Sorry.
That's okay. He's a busy man, guys. In this case, it's because of the way it's set up. There's no way you can add this.
There's no way to do that. In this case,
So-
not every building is the same. In
All
this
right.
case, unfortunately, what's going to happen in this case is you need to look for step goes. The process is you need to get a meter spot. You need to get a meter spot from, in this case, Department of Water and Power.
Okay.
They're the guys who are going to come out before the work starts. They're the guys who are going to come out and give you a particular location on the wall
All right.
where the new panel is going to go.
Okay.
This is a great location right here. It's on the corner. It's far away. There's clearance. There's certain clearance. This may be in the way. They may ask you to re-swing it the other way.
Okay.
But that's minor.
All right.
The panel is going to be here.
Uh-huh.
The panel is going to get
Up top.
the riser is going to go up top.
Okay.
You're going to have a connection there with DWP, and then the grounding is also going to happen. There's the water main in the front of the building, so a ground wire is going to be ran to the water main.
Okay.
The water is going to be bonded. There's going to be a rod here going 10 feet into the ground, 9 feet into the ground. There's going to be a second rod by the water main. Those gas meters are going to get bonded with water,
I see.
just in case if there is a problem, so the gas piping doesn't become electrolyzed. And the panel is going to be here, and
Yep.
only on that at the end, when we're ready with everything, we're going to start reconnecting. We're going to take this apart, and we're going to reconnect it. So the tenant is going to be out of power for maybe a day. So these 4 tenants are going to be out of power for
right.
between 8 and 3 p.m.
Okay.
As opposed to if we're putting it in this particular place, well then people are going to be out of power for many days at a
So
time.
essentially, the owner of this property should budget for having the entire panel replaced
In
because
this
they're
case.
in this particular
In this
case.
case,
And
yes.
I reiterate this because owners need to know what their options are because. Again, to clarify, this building was built in 1974, and Dima, not all 1974 buildings have exactly the same mechanism, right?
Obviously.
They're all very different, all across Los Angeles. So you do, and there is an option available to where, again, on a case-by-case basis, you can update just by tweaking some wiring. I mean, I don't want to sound
on a case-by-case basis, you can
And that
update
could-
certain things with the permission of building and safety.
Okay, with the permission of building and safety, and that could satisfy building and safety and insurance requirements.
Yes.
So there are several options available to us. But again, this owner should be budgeting for having this panel replaced. Now,
Correct.
this is the outside panel. From what I understand, there's inside the units, there's called a sub-panel, right?
Sub-panels.
So these units, these panels, then feed into the sub-panel inside the units, which then provides electricity to the units.
To the units, correct.
Got it. Now, those sub-panels sometimes need to be replaced as well.
So need to, yeah.
They don't
I mean-
have to. Let me rephrase my question. Do they have to be replaced, or you can also be okay with whatever's inside and replace what's outside? They don't have
I
to
mean,
work.
personally, if this was my building,
Yeah.
unless I would get a notice from the insurance companies, I wouldn't touch it.
You wouldn't
It's
touch
been
it.
here for a long time.
Right.
It's a big expense.
Right.
It just depends what your budget is for the year,
Okay.
what you're planning to do or
Right.
redo. Because besides panels, you have plumbing, you have other things, roofing, plumbing, other things that are going on.
Right.
It's great to get rid of them,
Okay.
but I would touch it if the insurance company comes after you. I would start.
Then we can cross that bridge when we
Yes.
get there. That's a good segue
Yeah.
into this next question. This building was built in 1974. How often, even though if you don't get an insurance letter, and let's say you do have minor problems within each unit, what's the average lifespan of a panel like this? This was
It
since
will
1974.
last a long time.
It will last a long
It'll
time.
last a long time. Unfortunately, again, these breakers are fire prone because they
Right.
overheat
Okay.
and they don't protect. So that's why insurance companies want to replace them.
Got it. Now, let's say an insurance company letter was not sent out to anybody, but there's a landlord who wants to do its due diligence and certainly doesn't want to have a fire inside their units. Is there something you can do for a Zinsco or Federal Pacific panel that hasn't been red flagged and it's fine, completely fine with insurance and building and safety? As a landlord, is there a maintenance that you can have every year, 2 years, 3 years that you would recommend, or do you just leave that alone?
I mean,
and-
unfortunately, there's really no maintenance.
Okay.
If you're going to start taking off the breakers, putting them back to check if the bussing is burnt or
then
not,
you're really starting
then
to
you're
mess with some
starting
stuff.
to mess with it. And who knows when you put it back if it's going to cause more problems than you've had
Okay.
before. So I wouldn't touch it.
All right,
I
sounds
wouldn't,
good.
I wouldn't touch it.
Well, as you know, everything is on a case-by-case basis. And speaking of case-by-case basis, again, to look at this and think about this owner with its soon-to-be budget that he has to budget for replacing this panel, I don't want that to be alarming for those individuals out there that are in a similar situation, because Dima has come across buildings, older buildings with Zinsco panels. And Dima, you have had really cost-effective solutions. You didn't have to switch out the entire
There
panel.
are sometimes cost-effective solutions.
Okay.
Unfortunately, again, it's not with this panel, but
Right.
not to say a lot of buildings are different.
Uh-huh.
So there are sometimes a meter bank and you have main disconnect means right underneath it. So a lot of it, it's a gutter, for example, a gutter with meters, and right underneath it you have
There's like
these
these
little
tubes.
disconnects for each unit. You got to be careful. You got to tread lightly, but they're with the permission from building and safety, and now they're also squeezing.
They're cracking down a little bit.
They're cracking down on it. It's not a preferred way of doing it, but it's definitely a very cost-effective way.
Okay.
And if you get a permit, if you get it permitted, it's going to satisfy building and safety. It's going to satisfy Los
insurance.
Angeles. It's going to satisfy insurance because you essentially getting rid of the problem.
Got it.
And you're not, by not spending a lot, at the same time you satisfying all of the points across. So
fantastic. Well, that's good news. Yeah. Well, we're going to head back to the studio. We are going to give some information on how you can contact Dima, and again, he is available to be able to go and see what type of a case that you have. So lots of great information. I really appreciate you guys joining us outside. So let's head back.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dima. This has been awesome. There's been a lot of information covered here, and there is so much more, but we don't have the time. The good news is that we do have a dedicated text hotline where you can send in your questions. Our team guarantees a response within 24 hours, and one of our experts will be available to provide you with advice. So if you have questions or need further insights, don't hesitate to reach out through text at 626-650-9547. You can find our contact information in the description below. Dima's contact information is also going to be in the description below, and we are here to assist you. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I cannot wait for the next episode. Cheers.
Thank you.
This was awesome, Dima. Cheers to this.
Cheers.
Well, there we go.